we continue to delve into the mysteries that are hidden in plain sight until we no longer need to see by the light of existence. There's that story about the man who from the earliest age was bedeviled by ill fortune. Every enterprise he undertook was sabotaged and failed. It had come to the place where he had to forage in the forest for twigs and branches to sell in the marketplace in order to make a little to sustain his family. But one day, when he was out foraging, he noticed that everywhere he went, there was a black raven following him, and fear rose up in his chest because his mind immediately went to the thought that this was the angel of death who was coming to get him. So his heart sank lower and lower. So in this state, he went down and sat under a tree, letting the great depth of sadness sink even deeper into his being. But then he noticed that the black raven had settled on a branch just above his head. So, in that deep pathos, out from the depth of his being, he cried, "Well, why are you here? What is it?" And he was not surprised when the raven spoke to him and said, "Don't you recognize me? I'm your ill fortune. I have taken many forms over these many years." And the man said, "Yes, I know. Everything that I have done seems to have failed." And out of the depths of his being, he cried, "How can I get rid of you?" And the raven replied, "Listen to what I tell you. Go home, and before the moon comes to fullness, leave your house, taking nothing with you. But remember, when you leave, you must not return, because if you do, I will be in a form that will bedevil you for the rest of your days." So immediately the man went back to his house and told his wife that they had to leave before the moon was high and full. So, putting their donkey, yoking it to their wagon, they left just before the moon came in to fullness. But they had not gone very far down the road when their small son cried, "I'm thirsty. Where is our water flask?" And it was found that it had been left behind. The boy cried and beseeched his mother, "I'm thirsty. I want water." And even though the man said to his wife, "No, no, we cannot return," her mother's heart did not allow her to let it rest, and she insisted that they return. When they came back to the house and retrieved the water flask, the flask said, "Aha! You see, now I am with you and will be with you to the end of your days." The man's heart sank, and he left the water flask behind. But when he climbed into the wagon, there was the water flask beside them. He told his wife what happened, and both of them fell into a deep state of despair. As they were moving along, the wife picked up the flask and threw it into a forest nearby, but in an instant it was back beside them once again. So their despair grew even deeper. But then they came to a bridge. And when they were halfway across the bridge, the wife said, "Stop! Stop here!" And so the wagon was stopped. Taking the flask, she filled it with pebbles from the side of the bridge. And when it was full, she tossed it over to the fast-moving river, where in an instant it sank deep to the bottom. When they got back into their wagon, to their great relief, the flask had not returned. So crossing the bridge and coming to a new place where they settled by a river, and the man became a fisherman. And from the beginning he was successful. He would cast his net into the river and bring out an abundance of fish that he was able to sell at the marketplace, and at last began to make a life for himself and his family. But one day, after he cast his net into the river, he drew out a fish that was more beautiful than he had ever seen. So he decided that instead of taking this fish to the marketplace to sell, that he would keep this fish for himself to celebrate with his family his change of fortune. When his wife was gutting the fish, when she opened it, inside she found a stone. And when that stone was removed, it was found that it seemed to have an inner glow. And as the day waned, they saw that this stone lit up their house. So the man, taking this stone, placed it in a lamp and hung it in their window. And of course, the lamp with its stone cast a light both inside the house and outside the house. And it was noticed that outside their window a tree was growing, and they watched this tree grow into a great carob tree, and they found the fruit sweeter than anything they had ever tasted. But not only this, but people came to also partake of these fruit, not only because of their sweetness, but because of what it brought to their lives. Now it was not long before the man no longer needed to be a fisherman. He lived off the fruits of that tree. The mysteries hidden in plain sight until we arrive at this place where we see without need for our eyes, our ears, our taste, our feeling. What is it that you've discovered, brought forth in so many stories? In this story, the stone that gives light both inward and outward. What is the mystery that we're experiencing? What does this stone represent for us? That which lights the inward and the outward without the need for sensory awareness. The sunlight, the moonlight, the vibrations, the perceptions of existence.